Good morning. The president today has no events on his public schedule. He's having lunch with the vice president at 12:30. Secretary Hegseth is meeting with the president of the Philippines today, who's in town for much of the week. We'll meet with the president later this week. Congress is back doing a bunch of stuff. And a lot of earnings reports this week, not as much government economic data. Two legal cases matters. Harvard is in court in this hour, 9:30, making oral arguments in its case against the Trump administration regarding federal funding for Harvard. And three federal judges at 10 o'clock will decide whether the interim U.S. attorney for New Jersey gets to stay in her role beyond the 120-day appointment. If they agree, she can stay through the entire term, I believe, without Senate confirmation. And Rahm Emanuel appears at noon with Megyn Kelly at 1 o'clock. Dan and I will be there to comment on Rahm's interview with Megyn Kelly. Full coverage of that tonight, on two-way tonight. Gentlemen.
I will say that the Alina Habba thing to me is fascinating, how the case that's being made. I mean, if the judges agree, it's more than, in my opinion, it's a lot more than Alina Habba now. You've opened the door to people who are interim appointments staying without Senate confirmation. And I don't understand. And
Isn't the rule for judges different?
It's U.S. attorneys, but they're still given.
U.S. attorneys.
Because why do you think Ed Martin left? I mean, Ed Martin left the D.C. one, and they instituted Jeanine Pirro because they couldn't keep him. So why is it different for the Eastern District or
It's just a random thing where three federal judges decide whether they see a rationale for the person staying without being confirmed. It's not unprecedented. It's happened.
I know, but I feel like it was just weird that you didn't do it for Ed Martin in DC.
Well, he had other issues.
He had issues, but also just the bad luck of the draw, right? If you get three judges who like you, then better. All right, we're not going to spend a ton of time on Epstein. The two-way community, I would say, scientifically is badly divided. Some of you would like the entire hour on Epstein, and some of you sent me some lovely emails over the weekend saying you will never watch the show as long as.
Did they have emojis in them?
Some of them had emojis. You know, there's some face emojis that I don't know, and I have to use AI to determine what the person's actually saying. In
Mark,
any event,
I think you should do a coffee table book for the merch shop of the emails you get.
Yeah, that would
be the best good.
Dan, just forward looking, what are you looking to have happen next? What are you curious about next on the Epstein matter, on the legal front or the political front or the president's true social account?
Yeah, I from most accounts, there are more stories about Trump and Epstein to come that will be shed new light on their relationship.
Interesting. Sean, what are you looking for?
Whether I felt like the weekend was, I keep talking about oxygen in a crisis, and I felt like this weekend the oxygen was going out and out of the room. And so the question is, does something today, if you use the example that I gave, 72 hours, you can snuff the fire out. If nothing happens today, I think there'll be some embers, but I think this might be the end of it. So what I'm looking for, does anyone step in something today that reignites it?
And is that why Trump was truthing up a storm, trying to get shiny balls in every direction?
He was throwing shiny balls of spaghetti up against the wall to see what would stick and distract. Two things for me. One is I want to see what the MAGA talkers who have daily shows do today.
Yep.
Are they on Epstein or not? And the other is Maxwell and whether there's a real move to get her to testify or not.
That to me, that goes back to my fire thing. I think everybody snuffed out it's not a good idea. I mean, everyone who wants this story to end was like, stop talking about her. And so to your point, if somebody brings it up today of significance, somebody like a committee chair, then that's different. But I feel like I feel like they all weekend, no one brought it up again, at least of significance. And so those are those tells. If that happens, they got a problem.
Yeah. So one group that can bring it up would be the Democrats. And of course, they're in the minority. They don't have as big a chance to keep it alive. They can't give Maxwell immunity, for instance. But some reporters have started to push back on Democrats and ask the question, if this is such an important moral issue, what did you do during the 4 years that Joe Biden was in office? Here is Jake Tapper asking Amy Klobuchar that question on yesterday's State of the Union.
President Trump posted on Truth Social Friday, quote, if there was a smoking gun in Epstein, why didn't the Democrats who controlled the files for 4 years and had Garland and Comey in charge use it because they had nothing, unquote. After the Miami Herald story broke in 2018, you said there was something not right in the Epstein case. But it's true that the president says there, Democrats didn't really seem to do anything about the Epstein files throughout the 4 years of the Biden administration. I mean, should you have? You sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator Marsha Blackburn for years has been trying to get flight records and other information about Epstein released, and she seems to have been the only one on that committee trying to do so.
So the president blaming Democrats for this disaster, Jake, is like that CEO that got caught on camera blaming Coldplay, okay? Like, this is his making. He was president when Epstein got indicted for these charges and went to prison. He was president when Epstein committed suicide. And then there was another case, as you know, that continued during the Biden administration. But he was president back then, so all of us would believe they know what's in these documents. They know it's there. They've been claiming forever that they should be released. And it is the Trump administration that gave a bunch of binders that said Volume 1 to reporters just in the last month. It is the Trump administration that has made this promise that they're going to release it. So I am blaming Democrats for this. To me, I'm sorry, this is the people that have been fomenting this are right-wing influencers, members of Congress, people who have a reason that they want to know what's in there. They believe the president.
So very good question by Jake Tapper. Ridiculous answer with a clever soundbite that got picked up all over the place, but non-responsive. And of course, Tapper didn't follow up. So you know, Democrats are not the ones in the hot seat on this, but they are the ones trying to drive it. And Joe Scarborough last week asked Jamie Raskin the same question and did follow up. And Jamie's response, I'll summarize, was humana, humana, humana. So Dan, can Democrats keep trying to have moral authority on this, or is the press on to them and they won't be able to drive this story?
No, absolutely. They can keep having moral authority because, look, Klobuchar's answer was jumbled, but the bottom line is Democrats did not see a deep state. Democratic supporters were not clamoring for this. The reason that this issue is kicked around for the last 7 or 8 years is on the right, there is this view that the government is full of deep state Democrats and liberals who are, hiding all sorts of stuff, Pizzagate, the one conspiracy theory after the other. And so, as Klobuchar is right, like you make the stew, now you got to kind of deal with it. And so Democrats are piling on. That's politics. Just bottom line.
Look, multiple things can be true at once. One, it was a good question that, is relevant. Why didn't it get brought up for 4 years? But I think Dan's analysis is spot on, which is because this wasn't their priority. They weren't milking it. They were happy with the files being, for a million possible reasons that we've covered and we don't need to go into again. Two, I think, look, I'll give Amy Klobuchar credit. I know her a little. She's witty. She's funny. I don't know if that was her staff or her, but it was a perfect answer. And you're right, Mark. What happened is it took a question that was smart, on point, and twisted it to like the funniest line of the Sunday shows, which isn't really a high bar. But the bottom line is that's what everybody talked about. And I think she played it well. If you're going to obfuscate well and funny. And she did. So I'll give her credit on that. But then to your point, Tapper should have said, that's good, that's cute. But the bottom line is, did you? And he failed, which is no shocker either. So, that's the beauty of this. And the reality sometimes in an issue like this is politically it matters where you sit. And yes, all that stuff is true, but she was right that we brought the binders out. We talked about what was out there and that we were going to do it. And so the onus does shift to the Republican side.
All right, one more thing, and then we're going to move on. Please, if you want to be in on the conversation, raise your hand. Did you guys watch Dershowitz on Fox News Sunday?
No.
Okay, so this got no pickup. Dershowitz was talking about the files, and he named 2 Democrats who he says are implicated in the files. Now, then he said, well, I'm not saying they're guilty, but their names come up. He said the names. Now, there are 2 names that have been associated with Epstein before, but I thought it was kind of shocking that he did it. It seemed like he was doing it with a purpose. I won't name them. One used to be the governor of New Mexico, and one used to be a senator from Maine, but I won't name them. But he said both their names. And
I can tell you the governor of New Mexico knew him.
Yeah, yeah.
I attend with the absolute fact.
I think they both knew him. But
by the way, God rest his soul. He's
yeah,
no longer with us.
Yeah, but the other guy's still alive. And I will say that those guys, like it seemed like Dershowitz was doing some clever like 3D bank shot move to name them, but say, well, it's unfair for people to name them because who knows if they're guilty.
But so who, without saying the name, outside of the governor of New Mexico that's no longer with us, it was also the UN ambassador and the energy secretary. Who was the other random person?
A former Senate Majority Leader from Maine.
Oh, interesting.
His name's been, they've both been out there. They've both been.
No. But you know why? But it, look, I think part of this was I think Dershowitz was throwing, first of all, his own party has scorned him. So I think it's a little bit of a payback. Secondly, he's choosing people who are clearly, in the one case, no longer with us. And I don't believe, is the senator.
Yes, he is. He is. He's got a lot of health issues, but he's still alive.
Yeah, he's definitely not negotiating peace in Ireland anymore.
No, he's not. Dershowitz was up to something I couldn't figure out. All right. Again, raise your hand if you want the conversation. Incredible story in Axios 105, please. Mark Caputo and his colleague with a piece about all the things that Bibi has done lately in terms of military activity that's driving the White House nuts because he's killing civilians and he's on multiple fronts. And this goes back to no president I've ever covered hasn't figured out how to control Bibi. Sean, if the president's truly mad about this, would he pick up the phone and call Netanyahu? Why are they doing this through Axios as opposed to direct to Bibi, or are they likely doing it direct to Bibi?
Both. I think it's they know that Bibi will read that, and they also are trying to send a message to the president that like, hey, this is not like you need to get a handle on this. But I think both are true.
Dan, is it the president's annoyed by it because it's distracting from his other stuff he wants to talk about? But are the things that Bibi is doing, are they against American interests?
Yes.
They may be morally wrong, but why are they against American interests?
I mean, if the goal is to try to eradicate the threat to Israel, then no, what he's attempting, there may be there may be I don't know what the right word is, casualties, that they don't intend to harm people. So that's when you have war, you're going to have it sometimes where a missile doesn't hit the right target, or you're trying to kill somebody and innocent civilians are killed. But absolutely, I agree with Sean. They're leaking it to Bibi. His people read that stuff. Bibi leaks to them as well, and it's a shadow kind of back and forth to say WTF.
By the way, one of the things that I always am intrigued by, and I thought the same thing with the Wall Street Journal story last week, is who the byline is.
Yeah.
And it's
not nobody.
No. So if you want to get a message into MAGA world or understand it, I think Mark's probably the one reporter that has his finger on the pulse more than anyone else. But I would have figured it would have gone to like a Mike Allen, which was fascinating to me. Sort of again, and maybe that's just too in the weeds, but how these things, who dishes to whom, always to me is a fascinating dynamic to look at.
All right, we'll keep following that. Let's talk about tariffs. Later this week, the EU is going to Beijing. They've cut the meeting from 2 days to one, and the Europeans are casting it as kind of a more hostile thing, but it's meant to celebrate the 50-year trading relationship between China and Europe. Bunch of stories today, significant, related to trade. 108, the New York Times on the EU. There's still no deal between the EU and Europe, between the EU and the US on tariffs. The New York Times says all this conflict is uniting the Europeans. 110, the Wall Street Journal cast the Europeans as hawkish and ready to fight with the US and not willing to give in, even as the American side reportedly makes more demands. 109, the Washington Post says the tariffs are actually starting to shift supply chain, even though the Journal also has a story saying the economy's doing great and the worries people had that tariffs were undermining are not true. Maybe the most important story, though, 111. It's the Chinese. This says the Chinese are not getting along with Europe. They're certainly not getting along with Trump, but they're not getting along with Europe either, and that they're playing some sort of other complicated game. So Dan, where are these deals? Where's the EU deal? Where's the China summit? Like where are we now on all these issues related to kind of the triangulation between the US, Europe, and China?
I think on the EU, it actually is similar to the Bibi story we just discussed, which is I think they're both shadow boxing because I think both sides would like a deal. Trump to kind of get a big scalp to put on the mantle, and the Europeans to kind of get this over with and move on. And the question is just, will Trump accept what's on the table now, or is he trying to squeeze a little bit more? Because there have been reports that the Europeans do want this deal. With China, I still don't know. I mean, there was a great story in the New York Times over the weekend about how the Chinese, when they cut off the raw materials, the raw earth materials, it was the Trump people that came back to the table to said, hey, let's meet in Europe. Let's try to, figure out a way to get out of this, and that we relaxed the chip controls that we've had in place for the last 8 years, and said that NVIDIA could start selling not their most advanced chips, but fairly advanced chips to the Chinese. That was announced last week. So it seems like the Chinese have more leverage on us than we kind of had hoped going into whatever summit we get this fall. And at the same time, the Europeans aren't in love with them either.
So there's 10 days between now and August 1st. That's when they have now punted this trade deadline to. The deal with Europe is largely, I mean, it's to call it a deal is probably pushing the envelope on the word deal. It is a framework, and a lot of the language on the sticky points, autos, minerals, pharma, are more illustrative language than actual finality. It's we will continue to strive for a win-win situation in which a dynamic outcome benefits both economies in a robust way. I mean, honestly, it's going to sound like the communique of a G7 or an APEC. That being said, if you can't get a deal with Europe done, because they're between the 5 and the 3 yard line of this deal, then the other 99 or whatever that they have queued up are screwed. If you can't get this one done, because the EU Trade Commissioner desperately wants it. I mean, like, the point is, this is what we're seeing in the next 10 days really matters towards this whole bigger issue that you're alluding to in terms of China and everything else. But I think if you're the trade team, you better lock this one in. It's a hedge against China, but it's also, again, if you can't get this one done, then the other easy ones are going to be tough because no one's going to think that you can pull them off. So I think the Europe back and forth this week between China, what we get done or not done, is going to be critical to watch.
Well, and by the way, Sean, on Vietnam and I think it was the Philippines last week, the White House keeps announcing deals. The other side says we don't have a deal. The details are nowhere near filled in.
Well, no. But see, this gets back to what I'm telling you is when you say you're pushing the framework of the word deal, right. Go to the UK agreement. It's 4 pages long. It's not, these are not, I mean, I was the assistant US trade rep for 3 years. The deals are long and robust. This is like, I agree that we will agree to big things, and we will agree that those are going to be robust and dynamic. And it's not.
Well, and the other thing that was reported is whatever we agreed to in Geneva with the Chinese, it sounds like even Senate Republicans are getting pretty nervous. Some people in the administration are getting pretty nervous. Nobody knows what's in it. They won't say, which tells me we gave away more. We were the beggar, and we don't want that to get out. Because if you remember, the story was the Chinese were calling us. Well, now it appears we called the Chinese and said we want to meet because our companies were saying we have a problem if we can't get those rare earth minerals. I mean, I hate to say this, but the Trump people bullshit so much. It's so hard to know what the heck the truth is.
Yeah, well, they may be bullshitting on this, but they think they're going to get the Europe deal done in time. We'll see.
But how long have we heard that for?
Well, I know. All right,
but again, it goes back to we're going to get it. I feel very bullish about it, but I'm telling you what it is. Bill Clinton.
It's enough to move forward. That's all it is. All right, raise your hand if you want in on the conversation. This story about Tulsi Gabbard putting forward somewhat vague and somewhat specific charges regarding Russiagate and the Obama administration continues to percolate. It's not received sufficient coverage in the dominant media, but I have to tell you, having looked at everything, it's still a little unclear to me what exactly she's saying. Here she is, our director of national intelligence on Fox News over the weekend, 107. Please.
That doesn't just affect Democrats or Republicans. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue with such significant impact that it should concern every American, because it has to do with the fabric and integrity of our democratic republic. That we had a situation here where in the months leading up to the 2016 election, the intelligence community assessed, and this is what the documents detail, the intelligence community assessed essentially Russia doesn't have the tools, the capability, or the intent to try to change the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. Donald Trump pulls off a historic victory against Hillary Clinton in November of 2016. Even in the days after that election, the intelligence community continued their consistent assessment that reflected the same thing in the months leading up to the election.
All right. Hey, Paul, how long does it take to ride on a modern elevator from the first floor to the 32nd floor? How long do you think that takes?
About 90 seconds.
90 seconds. You put 90 seconds on the clock? I think it's shorter, but
Sure.
90 seconds on the clock. Okay. Sean, you get the first 45, then Dan, as soon as the clock goes up. Explain as specifically as you can, what is Congresswoman Gabbard, what is she charging, and who is she charging with it? What is her allegation, and who is it against? Paul, we have the clock anytime soon? I'll do it on my phone.
She is basically.
Go ahead, Sean. You got 45 seconds. Go.
So she is basically alluding to the fact that they manipulate the national security apparatus.
But name who she.
Wait, I get 45 seconds, and I
Okay.
get it. I don't.
Okay.
So she is alleging that the national security apparatus under Joe Biden manipulated or did not look at or give a full picture of the intelligence that showed Russia's capability with respect to how it was potentially interfering with the election. And they used that intelligence and weaponized it to create a story that wasn't true.
Dan, that was the vaguest thing I ever heard. Do you understand what she's arguing? And
Oh
who she's
yeah, no,
charging?
I think I get it. It's classic
Yeah.
Trump. Like, he is always trying to rewrite history. Change the outcome is different than influence. There is absolutely no denying the Russians attempted to influence our elections. If that is false, then everyone should be suing Google and Meta, who both admitted under oath.
But what does this have to do with Barack? What does this have to do with Barack Obama?
Because what they want to do is rewrite the fact. It drives Trump nuts that the Russians helped him. The question was, did they collude? And Mueller said that there was not sufficient evidence. He hates the fact that the Russians helped him in a
I understand, but I listened to you both closely. I still don't understand. Who is she charging with what?
Oh, the deep state, the whole nonsense that there was a cabal out there screwing Trump. It's just like January 6th. We have to rewrite history.
Well, I'll tell you, look, the question that you're asking to me
Nonsense.
is when Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire put this out, and it was really well said, which was, if we on our side continue to make these allegations about things, fill in the blank, and then don't do anything. And I agree with Matt Walsh's point is, hey, if we're going to do this and stir everyone up, then let's go. And I agree with him, because it's like, if Barack Obama or Jake Sullivan or someone did something nefarious, inappropriate, Brennan, whatever, Comey, then let's charge them. But I just think our side continues to get people spun up on crap and then not do anything. And it's like, if you're going to make the charge, do it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you just said. And that's why I'm confused. I'm open to the notion that they did something wrong. And I know, as I've said before, they had trouble figuring out how to deal with it. They didn't want to announce things that might look like they were helping the Democrats. But at the same time, they didn't want to be silent and not warn the public. So I don't know. I want more information. All right. New York City mayor's race.
Oh, wait. Do you think
yeah.
I think the bigger question is, I mean, obviously there's a lot of chatter over the weekend about, how awesome this was. And, thank God that Tulsi's doing this. But my question now, because we want to look forward, is, did we just get chum in the water? Everyone gets spun up, or is there something? Because look, Pam Bondi put out binders, and everyone's now pissed
Right.
And the question is, you make these allegations and you're Tulsi.
Right. But
You
can't-
just, I mean,
Well,
you can't,
but I
you
think
gotta, you can't indict the deep state. You got to name some names.
well,
That's
but
the
it's
thing.
also very clear because this has been documented in the Senate report and other things. The administration saw what was happening during the election. They did, to Mark, to your point, they did not want to come out at the last minute because they thought it would look
Yeah.
political if they came out.
Yeah.
After the election, there was a lot of back and forth. We have got to get this out because this did happen and we need to know more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure there are emails and meetings and all sorts
All right.
of stuff.
Let's see them all. Let's see them all. All right. New York City mayor's race. There hadn't been much polling of late. I believe there's more coming. Stay tuned. Some interesting polling is on the way. But in the absence of that, probably the most interesting development in the race was the Democratic nominee, Mr. Mamdani, made an announcement that he's going to Uganda with his wife to visit relatives in the midst of the campaign, after saying during the debates in the nomination season that he would not take international trips as mayor. He'd stay home and focus on at home, sensing that this would be controversial. The guy does what the guy does best. He went social.
Being a politician means listening, not just to your supporters, but your critics too. And some of these critics, especially on a certain website, have been giving me consistent advice. For example, @SamWhite087. Zoran, go back to Uganda, where you come from and belong. @TeflonGone. Loser, go back to Africa. There are thousands like this from across the country. I hear you. And I agree. I'm going back to Uganda. I'm headed there in a personal capacity to celebrate Rahm and I's marriage with our family and friends. But I do want to apologize to the haters, because I will be coming back. And since you will undoubtedly read about this trip in the New York Post, inshallah on the front page, here are a few of my humble suggestions for headlines. MIA, Mamdani in Africa. Uganda miss me. He's completely crazy. He Afra can't be serious. Carl Kampala-Neely investigates Mamdani. Zoe running away.
All right, leaving aside that we all think that's a phenomenal video, because I know we do, and leaving aside that he said eyes when he meant my, which is madness, since he wants to be the mayor of our city. Sean, what's the significance of his Uganda trip for the mayoral campaign, if any?
I think there's a bunch of things. Here's what I want your take on, because this was and again, you might think I'm nuts when I say this, but remember a week ago, he got charged with checking off a box saying that he was African-American and questioning his heritage. And I thought what that did, if I'm watching that ad, is he actually just blurred the lines. He was like, I'm going back to Africa where I'm from. I'm Ugandan. Like, I actually thought it had this subtle brilliance of like, I just blurred the lines and you actually do think I'm black. And he connected with the black community in a way without ever saying anything about his heritage, where Adams is strong and everyone else is trying to figure out, how do I get a piece of that? To me, I looked at that and he just found a way to say, I just spent even if that guy just never gets off the plane, it hits the tarmac in Uganda and he turns around after they do a crew change, he just got a piece of the black vote in New York without saying a word. And so that's how I took that.
Wait till you see the photo ops from Uganda. Dan.
Yeah, Sean, I take all my lines. Sean is 100% right. I said it the last week. Watch the black community, right? There's a story of the weekend. Al Sharpton is thinking of endorsing him, right? I think that this is the big game, and it's very smart politics.
It's like going to Israel if you're running for mayor of New York City.
Yep.
But with a different constituency in mind. All right, New York, or DNC rather, 113, New York Times reported over the weekend they're doing an after-action report, aka an autopsy. And so far, according to the Times reporting, they're not looking at the question of Joe Biden's decision to run and withdraw from the race and the decisions that Kamala Harris's team made. Dan, if you were an advisor to Ken Martin and you read this story, what would you advise him to do? Stay the course, change things up, kill the thing? What should they do?
I don't necessarily think you need to look at whether Joe Biden should have run or not. I think history is very, very clear on that. And there's so many what ifs, like when he would have gotten out, etc. I do think, I don't know how you're doing this and you are not looking at the decisions that Kamala Harris's campaign made and the strategic decisions that the Joe Biden campaign made in 2023 and early 2024. How do you pin this on the outside groups? It's as if the campaign takes its direction from the outside versus the outside taking the direction from the campaign. It's a joke.
So,
Sure.
as someone who has tremendous experience in writing one of these, I will tell you part of the thing at the beginning is where you answer your questions.
Yeah.
So when you sit down to do this, you have to say, are we willing to take the lumps and get crapped on? And we, under Reince's leadership at the RNC, there were a lot of our own members as part of the 168 that said, why are we airing our dirty laundry? This is stupid. Like, we are telling everyone where the problems are. We felt we needed to instill a sense of trust and bring back donors, and it served a greater good. And I don't think that what we did, the Growth and Opportunity Project, will ever get the credit it deserves. But if you look at what was spawned out of that, the outside groups, America Rising, Data Trust, the fundamental mechanical changes that existed within the Republican ecosystem post that report have literally transformed the ability for the party to win in a way that it couldn't have in 2012. So the question is, why are you doing it? I think we went into it fully, truthfully, and saying, we're going to look at it warts and all. People are going to get pissed at us. And they did. These guys are trying to check a box and say, we wrote a report so that we can say we wrote a report. That's, again, you just create a problem when you do stuff like that. And I don't think Ken Martin was the guy who launched it, right?
No, it was Jamie Harrison.
Jamie,
it was
yeah.
under
So-
Harrison's leadership.
But he's
started.
continued. I'll tell you, there's three things that I'm from talking to smart Democrats that if they're smart, this report would focus on. One is they've got to figure out why they're losing the voter registration battle. That's massive. Two is technology. It's hard to quantify this, but they're clearly behind on using technology. Got to figure that out. And then the third thing is all this stuff about podcasts and why they don't have as much success there, and maybe they can handle that. But they've got to have a point of view. Yeah.
My theory on this is that when we did this and looked at it, honestly, it's like when something comes really easy to someone, like if you're a student and you don't have to study very hard, it's versus somebody who does, they approach the same thing very differently. And when you think about where we were in the late 2000s, we were horrible at voter registration because we kept the voter list internal. We didn't allow outside groups, and voter reg is a very, very expensive and intensive, labor-intensive issue. Data, the same thing. Technology, obviously, I mean, Republicans would never known as it. We literally hired a dude, one guy, Andy Barquette from Facebook, and that was like our secret sauce. We hired a guy. But Republicans, I feel, because they were behind the eight ball and all this, we felt like we have to grind harder. I think the problem for most of this stuff, voter reg, technology, Dems it's come easy to them for the last several decades. And suddenly it's like, I don't even know how to start because we've allowed NGP Van and everyone else to do the work for us.
Well, the other thing that's was crazy in that story is the number of people doing autopsies. I mean, there was I think there was references to four different groups, the DNC and three different. I mean, if I'm a donor, it's like we're wasting money.
But ironically, that's why they're doing it, right? They want to attract the donor money by saying we're the ones who figured out what went wrong, and so we're the ones you should give money to go forward. All right, three quick things on Democrats in 28, and then your question. So please, if you want in the conversation, raise your hand. New York Post has a story this morning, 114, on Pete Buttigieg claiming that the transportation department under his watch spent way more on DEI grants than they did on upgrading air traffic control. I don't want to get into the merits of the story because none of us are in a position to do that. But somebody dropped some oppo on Pete. There's plenty more to come on his stewardship there, I'm sure. Dan, who would you say would be giving the New York Post opposition research on Pete Buttigieg? A Republican or a Democrat, and why?
Both. Because Sean keeps saying this. He's a legit candidate. He's starting to make some traction. And people who want to ding him, this is what you do. This is the shadow campaign.
Sean, does the fact that it went to the New York Post mean it came from a Republican or not necessarily?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. I agree with that. I think the obvious culprit would be, someone on the Republican side connected to Duffy or whatever. But here's the thing. If you're a Democrat, the one area that we've talked about extensively, Pete Buttigieg is pulling at zero among blacks. Why did he do the DEI stuff to ingratiate? I mean, it was a beautiful, by the way, I think he blew it. He got the goal, but he didn't do the tactical part right, which was how to use all this money coming into DEI to help with groups that you're not doing well with. He clearly missed the mark because he spent all that money and got 0% for it. But I think if you're a Democrat, you want to make sure that you send the signal that he spent a ton of money trying to attract black voters and no one still likes him.
Right. All right. A couple of things, and then again, your questions. Rahm, as we said, he's joining Megyn Kelly at noon today. He's done some pretty high-profile interviews, but this is a big one. And Dan and I will be on with Megyn right after the interview to post-game it. Sean, the other day we talked about who might become the it candidate between now and the midterms. And neither of you mentioned Rahm, but I didn't mention Rahm. Rahm can raise a lot of money. He's got experience, et cetera, et cetera. Why is Rahm not high on your list of someone who could be the it candidate?
Because I think he could be the it candidate. I think for that reason, Democratic voters. No. What I'm joking about is if a Republican right now looks at someone like Rahm, I think he can raise a ton of money. He's practical. He's well-spoken. He understands strategy and tactics like most people don't. And for all of those reasons, he's unpalatable to the Democratic base. I think that he won't say half the crap that people like Gavin Newsom will say just to get advanced. I mean, Rahm's a smart guy. And I think because of that, he can only twist himself into so many pretzels mentally and look himself in the mirror. I mean, I think he has too much integrity to say things that he knows are unpalatable. That being said, I'm going to say this right now because I know we'll talk about it tomorrow and you guys will talk about it today. This is like if I called you guys and said, hey, after the show, I'm going down to the Y. Mike Tyson's here and he wants to fight. And I thought it would be fun. If he's going in, we've critiqued his previous podcast appearances. For Rahm, they've been lackluster at best. If you're agreeing to get in the ring with Megyn Kelly, you better have spent the weekend working out, doing some Pilates, pulling some weights up, because I just think to myself, this could either be brilliant and he walks out with 5 viral clips and they're going at it, like Ted Cruz, Tucker Carlson, or he gets his ass kicked and he walks out of here and his campaign is over before it starts.
Dan.
Yeah, I never say never, but I have never seen Rahm get his ass kicked. But never say never. Look, I think the only reason I don't say that Rahm can be the it candidate is that, Sean, you alluded to this. All the energy in the party is in the base, and the base right now loathes Rahm. That said, if there's anyone smart enough to figure out a way to toss a piece of a clever strategic piece of red meat to the base with his eye on the general election, his eye on moderates, it's Rahm. And the question is between now and let's say the end of this year or early next year, I have to think Rahm is thinking about this. Where am I going to pick my battle? And he will go all in to show the base, I'm with you on some stuff.
So here's the problem I have with this, not the problem.
Introduce it to Soldier and you'll do that.
With this interview, Megyn Kelly has to be Megyn Kelly.
Yep.
She can't, I mean, she has a reputation and she's known for being tough. And so she can't, despite a friendship or whatever she has with Rahm, can't not be Megyn Kelly. Rahm has to be Rahm, and someone's got to come out of this as the winner. And I don't know, Mark, you're smirking because either you know something or but somebody has to come out of this as a winner, because if Megyn goes soft on him, her base will get mad at her that she let him off the hook. If Rahm goes in and doesn't tangle, he's going to be, so to me, I mean,
I don't know. I think there is a middle ground.
Tune in at noon.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Lastly, Ro Khanna. Everybody likes to say House member hasn't been the nominee and president forever, so no House member can win. He's taken the lead on the Epstein thing. He continues to go on podcasts that are very popular, including some on the right, on a scale of 0, meaning no impact, and 10, meaning he's the nominee. How impactful will Ro Khanna's presidential campaign be, assuming he runs? 0, no impact whatsoever, out of the race, after a few weeks or months. 10, he's the nominee. Dan.
7.
Wow. Sean.
1.5.
No, I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, you go. Go ahead.
He is comfortable and he's fearless. And that, when I look at the rest of the field and how cautious they are, I don't think he'll be the nominee, but he can put pressure on people. He's going to stir it up. He's going to make some headlines. I mean, unless AOC runs or somebody that's like a real, nimble person. But Ro's got the potential to stir it up.
The correct answer is 6.9. 6.9. All right. Nelson, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are. after you
Where's
unmute,
Bob Barker with the
what's-
$7.01?
What's on your mind, Nelson?
Mark, you are so charming. You're just so damn charming. I've been trying to swim in the waters with a sister who hates Trump and a brother that loves him. It hasn't been easy. So peace, love, and understanding. And now I know why. You went to Whitman, home of the Dome.
There you go.
Too.
The best high school basketball
My
facility.
brother was on
sports
a
facility
point guard
ever.
on the #2 team in the state.
Really
Yeah.
amazing.
They
My
lost it in
my
five.
senior year, we went 6-12,
Oh.
and I was captain of the basketball team. And we had a future NFL quarterback on our team.
Who
You
was
knew
that?
Ah,
Yeah, that was
I didn't
Anthony
know.
Anthony Dilwick, who played for the Packers, was on my team.
All right.
6-16. Nelson, question for Dan and Sean. Thank you for
So
joining.
ask for Sean and ask for Dan. The ask is kind of a goofy one, but I think Trump ought to do the following. Next year is the 250th anniversary. He ought to host the golf tournament. He ought to, and here's the kicker: the golf tournament should involve both men and women at the same time. And I remember the Billie Jean King versus Bobby Riggs thing. The
Would women
and
get to
men-
hit off from their tees, or do they all have
No,
to?
no, no.
I
The
was
women
gonna
hit from
I was
the
gonna
women's
ask that
teams.
question. Yeah.
The women hit from the women's teams, so to be fair, the Olympic winner in Tokyo had the exact same score. The women and the men had the exact same score on the same course, and I think the ratings would be off the charts.
All right, Nelson, I love
Nelson,
this.
it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's
I want
brilliant.
to take it to it. I got Nelson. Here's the thing. I'm going to steal this, but I want to
Please.
expand it. Every state has their own tournament, okay? And the winners, the male and female of every state, play in a national championship at Trump National in DC for the 250th.
Yeah.
This
And
is
the pri-
good.
And
All
the
right.
prize is $250 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
So
wouldn't want to
event
have
of the year.
you wouldn't-
Now,
John, you wouldn't want to have
Nelson, can we name the tournament after you?
Yes,
We need to do something.
The Halperin Crouch Open.
Now,
Trump Halperin Crouch Open.
Sean is stealing the idea, but we got to get you involved somehow. So we're gonna name it after you.
I'm on GoDaddy right now, branding this.
Nelson,
If it's $250
brilliant.
million, just throw me $1 million. I'll be happy.
All right, Nelson, brilliant idea. Thank you. We
I
love
have
it.
one.
So smart. Oops, sorry. Unmute. I muted you. Go ahead. Unmute, Nelson. Finish
Nelson,
up.
you got to unmute.
You got to unmute. Sorry.
I like his hat too, by the way.
Dan, this is more of a serious question. Bashir is going around saying that Trump is destroying his hospitals. Would he be in favor of increasing the tax of Tennessee's citizens so that the money goes to the hospitals?
Kentucky.
Ask him that.
Kentucky. We don't know about the hospitals yet. There's gloom and doom, but we don't know. Nelson, thank you. Grateful to you.
Thank you.
Sean, keep us updated on the progress.
Yes.
By the
Beth,
way,
well-
there's a real backstory of the Congressional made a huge play to get that 2027 U.S. Open, spent a lot of money and didn't get it.
Congressional Country Club.
That whole reno was
Another-
about, they
another-
wanted the 250th U.S. Open.
Another
it.
piece of my childhood. Dan, how far was my childhood home from Congressional Country Club?
I don't know where specifically in Bethesda. I'm going to say 2.5 miles.
I was going with less than a mile.
Less than a mile.
Oh, so you're in
Great.
Potomac. All right.
Well, it's Bethesda, but it's practically Potomac. Beth,
Yep.
don't crash. Welcome in. Tell us.
I won't crash. Hey, good
No.
morning to you
No.
and everybody. This has been a great show. I didn't know whether I'd raise my hand or not, but I've got so many questions. One is for Dan. And by the way, I love the golf idea. It's a great idea.
Great idea.
My son-in-law just got home from playing at Pine Valley, and
Ooh.
everybody was very all agog about that. But anyway,
The number one course in the world. That's why they're all aghast about
you
it.
know what? There's a story there. But anyway,
Okay.
my question for Dan is: at the beginning of the show, you said Republicans, they just distribute so much, and you use the word bullshit, which is, I can use that word too.
Pardon. Yep.
So what I'd like to know, I just re-listened to Maria Bartiromo's interview of Tulsi Gabbard on Sunday. And what I'd like to hear from you, and maybe a response from Sean, and then maybe Mark would weigh in. I am really confused by if the Democrats want to deliver honesty and they call everything that Republicans do bullshit, then what is going on with Clapper and Brennan and Obama and Comey and the FISA court judges. And I think Maria did a really good job of kind of laying it out. And it should be a national story. And Sean mentioned Matt Walsh's post, and I completely agree with Matt too. You know, at some point you have to say, enough is enough. I don't care who these people are. The Democrats were willing to do that to Trump, to drag him through court, through, you know, the majority of his first term. Thank God he had 4 years to kind of get his ducks in a row and get on with business. But Sean, you know, I'd like Dan to respond to the bullshit comment and the hypocrisy. And then to Sean, like, why do you think these charges come forward and then nothing happens? Is it because they don't have their I's dotted and T's crossed and they have to be careful?
Well framed, Beth. Dan and then Sean. Thank you, Beth.
Yeah, first off, sorry for cursing on air.
There's a kid in the car, for goodness.
Yeah, I just saw that. I felt terrible about that. My comment on the poop here was about the trade deals and like kind of we have a deal, but then the other side says there is no deal. So that's why I said it was hard to know, because they're kind of full of it on these trade announcements. Doesn't mean they won't ultimately get them and they won't ultimately get results. But on that, on the Clapper, Comey, look, if you have evidence, if there is evidence of wrongdoing, then by all means put it out. Sunshine is the best. Transparency is the best medicine. It is best for this country. I believe that a lot of the stuff that they talk about is conspiracy theories to hype their base and to convince them of this deep state. However, they are now the deep state. Trump owns it. It's his government. They fired a lot of people. They're putting in all their own people. So if there's evidence of wrongdoing, please put it forward. If it's Democrats or whomever.
So, Beth, you know, the funny thing about this is this one particular issue is probably more personal than a lot for me and a lot of other Trump folks that got dragged in front of Mueller, spent countless hours preparing and dealing with it. And you know, despite, quote, not ever being a target, it's never nice getting dragged into a federal building and having someone do a examination of everything that you've said and done, and question what you meant by things that were, you know, written in a notebook or in an email or whatever. And there was a lot of money, a lot of accusations, a lot of lives ruined, a lot of money spent. And so I actually, if there is something there, I actually want them dealt with. And obviously I don't have access to this information. So I would say to the point that Matt Walsh was making on his post the other day, if you're going to go there, let's go and put these guys out there and let's lay out the evidence to what they knew, when they knew it, did they overlook things intentionally or not? But I don't want to just call them out. If there's evidence that they actually did things that ultimately destroyed people's lives, cost them a ton of money. I know individuals, I mean, who went into severe financial troubles because of the legal ramifications of this. And as I've said before on my show and others, when you get the phone call that, hey, you know, this is going to happen, your lawyer calls you, who's got a lawyer, who's got two paralegals, and the costs mount. And it's a stressful and financial situation to be under. And so if these guys cause something like that to happen, I hope they pursue them. And I would urge, like, I hope that we on the right pay as much attention and put as much pressure as we've done on Epstein to the DNI now to say, let's go then. Refer these things to the Department of Justice, lay it all out there, and we need to know. And if Brennan or Comey or Sullivan or any of these guys did this, let's hold them accountable.
And I would hope that despite the human desire for eye for an eye, that people in both parties would stop bankrupting people I know by bringing legal charges that are not proper. And I'm not saying which are proper and which are not. I just know plenty of people in both parties who I've known have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, including people in no position to pay that much money because of investigations that were far too broad, sometimes with special counsels, but not only with special counsels. Beth, thank you. Hayden, welcome in. Thank you for joining. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind, please.
I'm Hayden. I'm from Cincinnati. I'm sneaking out of work to get on the Zoom, so I just wanted to tune in real quick.
I take his name off.
So I completely agree with what Dan was saying. Like, I'm only 22 years old, but I'm a 3-time Trump supporter. But this is just kind of bait to throw off the base. Like we've got the whole Epstein thing going on, and they're coming in here throwing the whole, this. I to be honest, I didn't even research the subject because, like what Dan said earlier, there's no follow up. It's just bait. I don't care. I don't care about the stuff getting thrown out, going, oh guys, everybody look at this. I'm in the midst of Epstein, everything. There was a guy who came on a few weeks ago who kind of made the same point. He was like, he said something like it was a little while ago. Ukraine was like a 3 out of 10 mad. Amnesty was an 8 out of 10 mad. The Epstein thing was a 10 out of 10. And it's since the Epstein thing that I felt like the administration was trying to put out like distractions that I personally don't care very much about. But Dan makes a good point. Trump, this is like the whole Michael Moore thing that he used to say, ages ago. We remember that Trump is the grenade. Like you're the grenade, and that's why you won in 2016. That's why it's hard to defend yourself and run again as the grenade in 2020 when you're already in the presidency. And that's why he won again in 2024, because the people want the grenade again, right?
Hey,
So,
go ahead.
Yeah.
You have a question, or you just want the guys to comment?
Yeah, I have a completely unrelated question. This is more of like a Sean thing, if that's fine. Because I'm a super political junkie. Now I think we all know, even anybody would agree, even if you disagree with Trump, he's accomplished a lot in the last 6 months. He's gotten all his legislation through. How are you supposed to keep this momentum up? Yes, we have like redistricting in Texas, and we have redistricting here in my home state of Ohio. My district actually might get drawn into Cincinnati to try to draw out the Democrat in Ohio 1 or something. But how do we keep that momentum if there's not that much legislative accomplishments that we can do? We've got so much done. What more is there?
Hayden, you're asking a phenomenal question. When you get down to like 0 border crossings and you've made securing the border thing, at some point the dog catches the car, as they like to say. And I really do. You pass the big, beautiful bill. The trade agreement deadline is August 1st. At some point, and to Dan's point, just to give you a sense of the calendar, right? Washington will go out August. He will probably go to Bedminster, which he's done in the past. Congress will go do its recess. You'll come back in September. You got to pass as many bills as you can before September 30th for the fiscal year. Then everyone kind of peters out for the holidays, parties, whatever. And then you come back, January, State of the Union, and election year. So you're asking a brilliant question, which is what the team is going to have to start to figure out now, which is what's next. How do we keep the temperature at a level where people are excited? The water keeps boiling. I think you're going to see a lot more executive actions in orders, because there's only so much legislatively that you can possibly done. So there's talk of reconciliation 2.0. And as I keep saying to everyone I'm talking to in the administration or whatever, tell me what's in it. Well, we don't know yet. Of course. I mean, so they know what they want to do. They don't know how they want to do it. And I don't think it's for lack of, it's just, there's not consensus.
Right. That's my biggest concern. Like there's so many like swing districts that I feel like we can easily pick off if there was something to run on.
So they're having the good thing, Hayden, is that the conversations are happening. Whether or not there's agreement is the bigger issue. There are some additional tax and things. I know Russ Vogt is already talking about reconciliation 2.0 when the new fiscal year starts October 1st. There's a second rescissions package that's being considered. There's a lot of things. The question is, what do people finally get behind? I think largely this is a White House driven exercise. So we'll find out.
All right, real quick. Last, my client's on the way, I think, in a second, but I can tune in, I can listen. The show's great. I'm like I said, I'm 22. I've watched all the typical conservative stuff like that. I threw it out the door. I tuned into the morning meeting every morning on my way to work. This is my first 9 to 5, and I'm sneaking out, so maybe I'm not doing so hot to start off. Yeah, but I love the show, guys. You guys are all great. Amazing.
By the way, you tell the client, be like, hey, take the headphones out and share it with the client. We get one more person on board.
Yeah. Hayden, thank you. Grateful to you.
We'll give them gallery passes to our golf tournament.
I mean, I'll just say, as Hayden goes to work here, that this is a challenge that there's a reason you tend to lose midterms your first year in office, because it's hard to keep the energy going, and you invariably begin to get people disappointed.
Yeah.
And the other side gets fired up.
It's a strange thing that it's a non-consecutive term, so it's all a little bit different.
Well, this is the most political president ever who is laser focused on this.
There's a great story this morning. I've had conversations with James Blair and others They understand this like no one else has in the past about how important it is. Mostly because President Trump lived through it the first time, first term. So you are going to see an effort like nothing ever before to keep the House.
Yep. They have a chance to do it. And people who think they don't are wrong. All right.
Oh, I agree that they got a great chance to do it.
We'll talk about our shows tonight in a moment, but let me tell you about Meghan McCain this week. Meghan today has two great guests. Selena Zito, #1 book in America on Butler and the attempted assassination of President Trump, but so much more about America under Donald Trump. So Selena will be there. And
hey,
Vicky
Mark,
Ward.
real quick pause. This didn't get a lot of pickup. I had Selena on. Obviously, Meghan will do a great job with the interview, but like on the interview with Selena, she said President Trump called her 7 times the day after the shooting. 7 times.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. Talked about that in my interview with her too. It's in the book. It's a great book. Anyway, and also Vicky Ward, who's one of America's foremost longtime chroniclers of the Epstein matter. So those two are on today. But Wednesday,
this is good.
So that's at noon. That's at noon today. Don't miss that. But then on Wednesday, Meghan's interview with Jazelle Federman, recorded and in the can, and we're rolling out this Wednesday. You won't want to miss it. Here's a sneak peek at Jazelle Federman and Meghan McCain.
You're from Brazil. You were a dreamer. You came over here undocumented. Your story is so different than any other senator's wife that I've ever heard, including my mother. Respect to my mother. Can you just tell me a little bit about the experience of coming here undocumented? And, you're someone who, you're an immigrant, and you're someone immigrants look to for inspiration, and what that feels like to be an icon for so many people.
I think I always say being an immigrant is like living with a broken heart, because everyone you love will never be in the same place at once. I was always jealous of like those family reunion photos where they were in jeans and white t-shirts on the beach. You miss that. But I think when you're left with only hard choices to make, you make them. And my mom did not want us to live in a place that was so dangerous. She worried about our safety. She worried about getting home in one piece for us. And she was willing to try in that very difficult choice. And for me, it was a great experience. And I think it was because of perspective. Like my mom made everything like it was a game. It was like this level of Tetris you had to get through. And if things didn't work out, then you try something else. And she always reminded us that you can always start again. So if something happened that it didn't work here, then we would go somewhere else and try it all over again. But what was important was that she tried to provide us the safety that she felt that we deserved.
All right, so I've watched the whole interview, and if you trust my judgment at all, I guarantee you don't know about this woman the way you think you might based on what's been reported about her. You'll want to watch it. It's a long, extraordinary interview. They cover so many different topics. So again, I recommend you watch Meghan's today, but also Wednesday, 12 Eastern time on Two-Way. Sean, what do you have tonight?
You didn't think this one was coming your way. Teamsters President Sean O'Brien joins us today.
Good one.
Awesome.
We're going to talk mostly about the Red Sox, though.
Yeah, a good worthy topic. Sox are hot. Tonight on Two-Way tonight, 6 Eastern time, we'll have all the day's news, including the aftermath of Megyn Kelly's interview with Rahm Emanuel. And I will have two guests to talk about Iran, including a professor from the University of Tehran, Dr. Hassan Ahmadian will join, and we'll have a conversation about what's going on in Iran in the aftermath of the Israeli and American offensive, and the question of whether there'll be negotiations to produce some sort of deal. So join me tonight at 6. And then, of course, the three of us will be back in 23 hours for more frivolity, hilarity, peace, love, understanding, and presumption of grace to all and for all on behalf of the American people and civilization as we know it. Gentlemen, Dan, I'll see you at Megyn Kelly's. And
you guys are doing it in person, right?
We are in the Sirius studio.
We're going to be at the Sirius XM World International headquarters.
Stop by my conference room. Why don't the two of you get a picture?
I know where the conference room is, Dan. I'll take you by. Thank you all for watching, for being part of the Two-Way Committee, and we'll see you tomorrow. And Sean and I will see you tonight.